In this video, we're going to take a look at ethers. Now, ethers are just carbon atoms attached to an oxygen atom. Or maybe I should say it's an oxygen atom with a couple of carbon atoms attached to it. So the basic structure for an ether looks like this. Oxygen atom, and here we would have a couple of carbon atoms attached to it, like this, okay? Now, naming this, there's a simple way and a more complex way. Now, the simple way of naming this is just naming what's attached to it and then adding the word ether to the end of it. So, for example, if I have two carbon atoms like this, and then one carbon atom like that, we'd say that our substituents here is we have a methyl group here, and over here we have an ethyl group. And we would name these in alphabetical order. So we go E comes before M, so this becomes ethyl, methyl, ether. Ethyl, ether. And another one here, let's do this one up here. This one, we have two methyl groups attached to it, and if you have two of the same thing, then you use the Greek prefixes. So this becomes dimethyl ether. Dimethyl ether. Now, way back when, back in the day, when people wanted to have surgery, you didn't want to have surgery. Surgery was a miserable business because they didn't have anesthesia. So back in the 1830s, there were some college students at a party, and at the party, the college students were sniffing dimethyl ether, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a buzz, and they're dancing around having fun. Somebody falls down and hurts themselves, and like breaks his leg, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, he broke his leg. We don't have anesthesia. They're going to have to cut his leg off. He's probably going to die. But he was laughing because it didn't hurt. And there was a dentist who was attending this college party. It might be a little creepy by today's standards, but this dentist was at this college party and saw this, and he's like, huh, when I take the pliers and I yank out people's teeth, they scream a lot. I wonder if I gave them some of this dimethyl ether stuff, if maybe they wouldn't scream as much, and it worked, right? And you might be thinking to yourself, gosh, if I could make surgeries less painful, I could charge more money for this. And you'd be right. And so this dentist, he tried to patent this. He tried to patent it, which wasn't really successful because you really can't patent dimethyl ether. So this dentist, he gave a demonstration of doing dentistry using anesthesia. It actually didn't work out very well, and everybody's like, that'll never work. But one of the people that was attending was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe this will work. And so he gave it a try. He was a surgeon, and it worked for him. It worked for him as anesthesia. And so dimethyl ether was one of the first anesthesias that was used and made surgery much less painful. Now, a chemical compound that is similar to ethers is a thiol and a thiol ether. Now, a thiol is a carbon atom with a sulfur atom attached. Now, what chemists do sometimes to be lazy, did I mention that chemists are sometimes lazy? Is they might write a molecule like this, R. And you might look at your periodic table and go, where's R on the, no. So what it is, it just means the rest of the molecule. And then we would have S, like this, okay? S, and then there would be an H, okay? And this is referred to as a thiol. Thiol. And a thiol ether would be where we have the sulfur atom in between and a couple of other carbon atoms going off on either side. And these R's just mean the rest of the molecule, other stuff attached. Okay, so if we see just the sulfur atom like this, it's a thiol. And if there's a sulfur and things attached on either side of it, then it becomes a thiol ether. A thiol ether. So how do we name these things? Well, the naming is very, very similar to alcohols, but we just changed the ending here. We just changed the ending. So here I have 3 carbon atoms. 1, 2, 3. 3 carbon atoms like this. And then I'm going to put my thiol here, like that, on the end. And if this was an alcohol, this would be 1, 2, 3. That would be propanol. But because it has the thiol group on there, it becomes propanethiol. Propanethiol. Thiols are important compounds, and they tend to smell kind of bad. And an example of this is natural gas. And I don't mean the natural gas that's like, here, pull my finger. Natural gas is the stuff we cook with. That stuff doesn't have a smell to it. And if you have a gas leak, you wouldn't know. And so what people do is they add thiols to the natural gas because it smells really bad. And that way you would smell that there is a gas leak.